part one of a three-part series on how I made this globe. Now I made it a three-part series because I have the attention span of a 4-year-old. I can't sit and watch an hour, hour and a half of someone's video, much as I appreciate the work that goes into it, and I know I can learn a lot. I have to break it up, watch part of a video, come back to it later. I just can't sit that long. So I try to keep my personal videos down a little shorter. So in this first part, I'm going to show how I made the sphere. In part two, I'll show how I built this ring and the rest of the stand for it. And in part three, how I got the pyrography done. And that was the trickiest part. Coming up with a way to put a map on here, which you usually see as a flat image, and put it onto a round object. I spent 3 days trying to come up with the right way to do it before I finally got what I think is good enough. So I hope you'll stick around and watch. Let's get on making the sphere right now. I have this roughly turned, very, very roughly turned, and I want to try to make it as perfect a half circle as I can. The other one will be the same, and then they're to fit together. Now I've made this half circle from a piece of 1/4-inch plywood. You can cut this using a circle jig with a router or a circle jig with a bandsaw. You could draw a circle with a compass and cut it with a jigsaw. The trick, of course, is to getting it smooth and perfect. Different ways will give you different levels of perfection. I did it with a CNC router, which did a perfect job. Now what I want to do is lay it down along here, and we can see the light through. You'll be able to tell where the high spots are that need to be turned down. And it's just going to be a matter of very slowly and carefully turning away the high spots, checking, turning away high spots, rechecking, on and on until it's finished. And that's my next step now. Now when I hold this around here, I can see high spot mostly is right there. So I think I need to go from about here to here to trim that down a little bit. So I'll just make these marks on here so I can see them when it's spinning. And I will try turning down between those a bit. This is going to be a long, slow process, I'm sure. All right, now I'm just going to continue doing the same thing. High spot is right here. Take a little bit off there, and I just have to slowly, very slowly, get the whole thing contoured. I'm getting closer all the time. Right now, I don't know how well this is going to show up on the camera, but I've got a little bit of a bulge right here that's holding it up, just on this one ring. I'm going to try very gently to take that off, so I'm going to use my 1/4-inch bowl gouge. There's an area down here. I'm a little disappointed, but this is going to have to stay like this for the simple reason that this is now too thin to turn enough away to get this down flush. So I'm not going to get the perfect sphere I want, but I'm not too unhappy. This is my first attempt. Never really tried doing spheres before. I'm just going to carry on now and see if I can get rid of that little bit of a bulge. Just took a very, very fine amount off, and that does make a difference. There's still a little bit of a crown just on the center there. Getting closer all the time. I'll just keep working on this until I get it as perfect as I can get it. Having now turned the piece as well as I can, this is just a quick look at how I sand it. Well, I've got it sanded to 400, nice and smooth. This arc is pretty good on at least the top half of it here. This is unfortunate, I kind of messed that up a bit, but I'm no Richard Raffin, so I don't intend on doing professional work, and I'm hoping the other one will come out better and this can be the bottom of the globe. So now I'm going to turn the inside of this. I've had people, other turners, tell me when I do the inside of some of my vessels, why do you bother? When the neck is so small, nobody can see what's in there anyway. And this is going to be totally sealed up so no one will see it. But that's just one of my little idiosyncrasies. I just figure if you're going to do it right or don't do it all. I'll do a little bit more turning here. I am not going to the trouble of sanding it. I just want it turned as well as I can. I'll be back when it's finished. And that's where I'm going to leave it. It's a long, long way from perfect, but although it is about 1/4 of an inch thick out here, there are some spots in here where it's quite a bit thinner, down almost to 1/8 of an inch. So my problem is going to be, in part, when I put the next one on there, squeezing it. I don't want to overdo it. I could actually crack the shell here. So that's where I'm going to leave it for now, and I'm going to carry on with the second half. I have these extension plates I've put on my coal jaws. I have a video on how to make those if you ever want to look it up. I'll put that in the description box below the video. Now I'm going to put the half spheres in here, and I'm going to turn the bottoms off. I put some rubber pieces in here that are adhesive backed, just to cushion a little bit, and let's see how this is going to work. With this half sphere in my coal jaw extensions, I'm now going to use my parting tool to part this probably almost all the way off and then finish it with a saw. I'm turning it at just 500 RPM. I'm going to turn the remainder of the waste block off and straighten up the bottom of this half sphere. I'm turning this at 1000 RPM, and I do not recommend that you do this. Don't do anything in woodworking or wood turning that you don't think is safe. I'm doing it for two reasons. Number one, I believe the coal jaws are rated for either 600 or 750 RPM, and I know they have to build in a tolerance there just to cover themselves for liability. Number two, I built these extensions. I know what I put into them, the care and attention that I go through when I do my work, and I believe that I'm safe. Now, having said that, if I have an accident, I have no one to blame but myself. if you have an accident, I don't want you blaming me. So again, if you don't think it's safe, just please don't do it. I have the tailstock brought up here for a little support just until I'm sure that this is running true, and then I'm going to take it away. Alright, now I'm ready to go on to the next step. And the next step goes like this. Once the two halves are glued together, I want to pass a 1/2 inch threaded rod directly through so that I can use that to have the globe spin on. Now, the bottom is only 1/4 inch thick, so I want to glue a 3/4 inch disc inside, and to do that, I'm putting this underneath to support the floating disc, and I will put this piece of rough timber underneath my press, use that to hold it down until the glue sets. When they're both finished, I'm going to put them back into the coal jaws, use a Jacob's chuck with a 1/2 inch bit to drill the hole through, and then I'll come back and show you what's happening. I've turned the speed down to 100 RPM, and I'll just very slowly feed this 1/2 inch bit through the bottom. Well, getting close to time to glue this up now. I've got that same small piece of wood underneath supporting the floating disc. On top I have this round disc. Try to supply even pressure all the way around the outside. When I get it together, get some glue in the joint here. Just tighten this down, let it dry, and that should do it. Now this joint is not perfect. The sizes are not perfect. They do line up nicely. I am going to have to put this back on the lathe and spin it enough to just sand this till it is perfect. So now, time to get this thing glued up. Well, I believe that's lined up as well as I can get it. I don't want to over tighten this. This would be not a good time to have something snap. Now, time to let it sit there for an hour or two, and I'll be back. I have the 1/2 inch threaded rod in the pin jaws of my chuck. Now I'm going to take this and I'm going to thread it on here. I'm going to use the live center cone in my tailstock to drive it, lean my body against it to keep it from spinning. I've got this turned down to 100 RPM, and let's see if we can't get this threaded on here. I'm just putting pressure on the tailstock with my hand, bringing it over. Now I'm going to turn it off, support it with my hand, and just push it in until it lines up with the hole down here on this end. And I'm going to put a large washer and a nut on here to hold this. Now if I take the cone off, I should be able to use the end of the live center, which is empty, to hold this and keep it running true. Okay, now I should be able to put this in reverse, tighten it up so it's not going to spin, put it in reverse, and sand. I'm going to put the port for my dust collector over here now, reposition the camera so you can see what's going on, and give this a shot. Alright, I'm going to be spinning this in reverse. That's going to tend to make this nut want to come off. So I have double nutted it, which means I put two nuts together and tightened the second one very tightly against the first nut. So I'm going to be spinning it in reverse at 500 RPM. I'm going to be using 100 grit sandpaper to start with because there's quite a little ridge here. It's not by any means perfect, but it shouldn't take too much to bring that down. I'm going to turn on my dust collector and wear my air shield and give this a shot. Now I'm not going to subject you to all the sanding, it's not what you want to watch. I'm going to go through the grits from 100 all the way up to probably 800, and then I'll be back to show you the results. Kind of like this so far. It's certainly not a perfect sphere by any stretch of the imagination, but it's my first try, so I'm very pleased with it. I am really pleased with this. It's not perfect, but I think it's pretty nice. I really like it. It's smooth. I sanded it to 800 grit. Then I put on 2 coats of sanding sealer. After each coat of sanding sealer, I sanded it with 1000 grit, just to knock down the fuzzies, the raised grain. After that, I put on a coat of Minwax wipe-on poly in a satin finish, and I sanded that down with 2000 grit, and it's just beautiful. I wish you could feel it. So now, the next step is to make a stand for this to sit in. Well, I hope you enjoyed how I made the sphere. And now I hope you'll come back for part 2, where I do the ring and the rest of the stand. I'll put a link to that video in the description box down below this video. So thank you for dropping in. Have yourself a great day in your shop and be safe. Click that like button if you like what I've done here. Let me know I'm doing something right. Don't forget to subscribe and take care of yourself now. See you next time.